At this place in history, we're in Bellows Falls with Steve Perkins, the executive director of the Vermont Historical Society. Steve, people can likely recognize that a very important piece of the village's industrial past brings us here.
Yes, Mike, one of the sole surviving pieces of the industrial past that really is indicative of the under the hill portion of Bellows Falls. We're here on the porch of the Adams Grist Mill with David Deacon, who's a historian. What's a grist mill?
Breaking down grain and ultimately grinding it into flour. We are right on the edge of the old Bellows Falls Canal. There would be no village without the canal. The trouble with it, though, was that it didn't make a lot of money. And the Atkinson family were always in debt. So I think this was a way to try to make them a little more solvent in the 1830s and hopefully to bring in more development.
Did it end up accomplishing that?
Not immediately. It's not till the 1860s when the paper mills start to be built. It's the paper industry that brought wealth to Bellows Falls. And so the Bellows Falls Canal Company owned the mill until 1875 when they sold it to the Adams family.
Right. Larry Clark, the vice president of the Bellows Falls Historical Society, is showing us around inside the grist mill. So Larry, what are some of the pieces of equipment that we're looking at?
Well, the inside of the grist mill, where you are right now, is basically the retail space from the days. When it was originally built in 1831, this would have been part of the original building. It started off, as you heard from David, being water powered, and eventually went from a water wheel to a turbine, to a second turbine, and then to electricity. Most of it is still intact, except for the wheels. There's a turbine down cellar. At one point in time, when this was basically the mill, you would just simply dump the grain in locally and it would grind out and be done. There's a whole variety of elevators and hoppers that would go, and some control mechanism using clothesline. And right behind you, you can see an example of that. We know that the mill ran from 1831 to 1961. When the last operator passed away, their descendant had really no interest in keeping it going. Now, the advantage to us as a historical society, and I think for historical research in general, is when that happened, the folks walked away. They left their tools. It's a time capsule. Now, the folks that took it over, they didn't want to see it be torn down. This is the kind of place that doesn't usually get preserved. They also went out as Bellows Falls was going through one of its revivals in the middle 60s and into the 70s, and they gathered artifacts from other places, other factories that were closing down. And a lot of those are stored here as well. We have a number of artifacts from Vermont farm machinery and so on.
We've just touched on the tip of the iceberg here.
Yes.
How can people learn more and how can they visit?
We have a website, BellowsFallsHistoricalSociety.org. We have a Facebook page for Bellows Falls Historical Society, and now there's a Facebook page for the Adams Grist Mill. We are open every Saturday from 11 to 3, from Memorial Day until mid-October, and usually on Sundays at the same time frame.
Preserving Bellows Falls' industrial heritage at this place in history.